first record I'm going to talk about is Patti Smith's Horses. I found this record when I was in my early 20s at a flea market in Topeka, Kansas. I bought it because of the Robert Mapplethorpe photograph on the cover. I had no idea who Patti Smith was or anything about the music. I just liked the cover. I took it home, put it on the turntable, and it changed my life. The music was unlike anything I'd ever heard. I played it a couple of times. I got back in the car, went back to the flea market, and bought all the rest of the Patti Smith albums that they had. This is a early pressing, great album, amazing musician. I was lucky enough to see her a couple of times. Patti's been one of the most influential artists that I can think of. You know, she's a poet, she's an artist. She stopped being a musician to be a mother. Married to Fred Sonic Smith of the MC5. They raised a family that you know, she decided that was more important than being a rock star. Once her children were raised, she started doing music again. I got to see her perform the entire Horses album for her 70th birthday. She did a show in Chicago, and I got to go to see her do that. That was quite amazing. An album that definitely changed my life. This album is nuggets, original artifacts from the first psychedelic era, 1965 to 1968. It was put together by Lenny Kaye of the Patti Smith Group. This album is influential to me because of the music that was on it. It introduced me to psychedelic music, to garage rock. The first copy of this I received from my friend Joel Harper. Joel was a big psychedelic music collector, and he turned me on to this. We spent many hours selling records and buying records at record shows, traveling all over the country to find records. He drove all the way down to Texas and found a stash of international artists that were labeled as the 13th Floor Elevators, and several albums or groups that are on this compilation were on. In the 80s, we opened a record store together and had that in Topeka, Rock On Records, for a couple of years. But yeah, this album, I can listen to it all the time. It's got, yeah, I mean, the Electric Prunes, the Knickerbockers, Standells, Blues Project, Vagrants, Shadows of the Night, the Seeds, Barbarians, 13th Floor Elevators, Count 5. Just so many bands that I went on to try to collect every album by every artist that was on here, and I'm pretty sure I've accomplished that. This album I found in the dollar bin at Musicland in Topeka, Kansas. I didn't know anything about it either. Looked like a cool cover. I took it home, I listened to it, it was amazing. I started collecting all of the Cramp stuff that I could find. My best friend Mike McEachran, he came over to my house. I played it for him. He lost his mind. He literally bought all the Cramp stuff that I had, so I had to go find it again. We started going, we got to see the Cramps for the first time together and got to see them 12 times, many more times than that. Started a website, accumulated all of their concert data, and just became one of the ultra Cramps fans, and it was all because of a dollar album that I found in the dollar bin. Well, the first record I ever bought, I was in 3rd grade, and I picked up this record, Hall & Oates' Rich Girl. I've had it for over 50 years, so it's been around. That was the very first one. I rode my bike to White Lakes Mall and bought it at J.C. Penney's. I've been collecting records since I was 8 years old. That was the first one that I'd gotten. My mom says that I teethed on records. There was always records in my house. My dad was a record collector. I can remember some of my first memories are about records. I can remember he was in the Columbia House Record Club, and whenever we get those cardboard mailers in the mail, I knew when he got home from work we were going to be listening to a record. He was is a massive Bob Dylan fan, so Bob Dylan was one of the first artists that I was really into. I definitely got a lot of my early musical influences from my dad and from his record collection. Other people that have inspired me as far as collecting, and my buddy Mike McEachran that I mentioned earlier, he's a huge record collector, and we've collected records together for many years. He's got a massive collection as well, and he's turned me on to lots and lots of music. My friend Joel Harper, that's no longer with us, but he got me started probably being a serious record collector, and you know, having records, making a living buying and selling records. He showed me kind of how to do that. So I learned a lot from him as well. He was a big influence in my record collecting. This album is very special to me. I love Uncle Tupelo. This album, No Depression, is an extremely influential album. They named a magazine after it. Just started kind of a whole genre of music, Americana music, which a lot of the music that I listen to currently is in that genre. But this album I received from a very close friend, Ann Winters. She knew I'd been looking for this album for a long time. It was very difficult to find, and she got one in her shop that had some water damage, and so she made me a really good deal on it, and I cherish it. And strangely enough, I got to go see half of this band last night in Wilco, and I've seen Sunvolt also a lot of times. But this album is it's a great album. It's got some amazing music on it. You know, it kind of blended punk rock, country, opened my eyes to a whole lot of music that I hadn't paid any attention to prior to hearing this album. So this copy is a very special one. Gil Scott-Heron, Pieces of a Man. This album changed a lot of things about how I looked at R&B and soul music. I was a big R&B and soul collector. You know, I love the beauty, the love songs, the melodies. Gil Scott had all of that, but mixed it with jazz and mixed it with poetry and a message that it wasn't something that I'd heard before. Another album that changed the type of music I was listening to, the way I listened to it. I obviously, as a record collector, I have sought out all of his work. So this was the first one that I got, and I'm always feel it is a special record. So usually when I decide I want to listen to records and I have some time and I want to enjoy it, have the house to myself, or go upstairs to my listening area up there. More than likely, it's either I'll decide on what genre of music I want to listen to, whether it be country, punk, most recently mostly jazz. But I'll sit down, decide what I want to listen to. I've got a comfortable chair, the speakers placed in the right place. I have the optimal spot for listening. In this room, it's right there. Upstairs, each spot has different places. Get in the right headspace, drop the needle on whichever turntable I decide I want to use, and sit back and enjoy it. This album is the first jazz record that I ever purchased. I got this at the dollar bin at Half Price Books. As you can see, it's quite water damaged at the bottom. It's a reissue. It's an OJC. But, I'd heard of John Coltrane, Lush Life. That's a cool title. It kind of reminded me of Iggy Pop in a way. I don't know why, but the cover just called out to me. I took it home. I listened to it, fell in love with John Coltrane, fell in love with jazz. That's pretty much what I collect currently. What I'm out hunting for on a day-by-day basis is jazz. I have pretty much everything that John Coltrane's released. Got a large jazz collection, but this is the one that started it all. Not very pretty copy of Lush Life. Most of the rock and punk and even country. I have most of those records in my collection. As I was talking about earlier, having a large collection in a house, living with it is a task within itself. Just finding space and trying to keep them organized. But the stuff that I'm collecting and looking for the most right now is jazz. And you know, at the top of my list that I've been searching for many years is Roy Brooks's The Free Slave, and I've just never been able to find a copy of it. I mean, I could go online and buy one for $300 or $400, but that's not fun. And I don't have $300 or $400 to do that either. But just this week, they announced it's going to be reissued. And so finally, I will be able to have a copy of it on vinyl. It won't be an original copy, but sometimes when a reissue comes out, the originals will start to appear, and people will sell a, not pristine one to so that hopefully they'll become more available, and I'll be able to find an original copy eventually. But that's the top of my collector's bucket list right now. This album, Lightning Hopkins on the Crown label. I really like the blues. Lightning's one of my favorite artists, but the reason that this one is special is not because of the music, is because of the cover. And if you see down here, the artist is Fazio. When I started collecting records, I'd find these records all the time, and they had these weird paintings on them, and this Fazio was always on there. I tried finding out information about him, but early on, the only information you'd find out was, oh, he was a mysterious guy, and the mob killed him, and just all this crazy stuff. So I started collecting all the covers. I found out that he did the covers from 1963 through about halfway through 1964. He did all of their covers, and he would take a photograph and then he would make a painting of it. I collected them all. Since then, there's actually a documentary that's in the works right now about his life. He wasn't killed by the mob. He was an artist in California, did several the paintings for the governors, and just was a very successful artist. But for a while, worked for Crown Records and made these beautiful covers. I don't know, about 10 years ago, there was a lady online that found a whole stack of his original paintings that had been left in a basement and had been water damaged, and I was able to pick up about 3 of those that I could afford. And so I actually have a few of his originals artwork that were used to make these album jackets. So Lightning Hopkins, love the blues. Fazio, it's the artwork, it's everything all rolled into one. This album encapsulates a lot of stuff I love about record collecting.